What's good, kings and queens, gods and goddesses? This is Zen. I just want to put this video out here and go over some of the things that I've put out so that you're all a little more aware. If you haven't looked through my entire collection, I'll scroll through it here so we can kind of take a look at it. But it's just a little reminder that when you watch these videos, to hit the buttons like, subscribe, share, and comment, because there's a few things I'd like to make this channel bigger, because the information I'm putting out, for anybody that's paid attention, is very well aware how advanced this stuff is and how potent it is. I've spent 15 years, I've had the luxury of studying the esoteric and occult. I haven't had to do much else. I've put tens of thousands of hours into study of this, and I can link things together so that everyone can see. And anyone that's seen some of my larger videos, I have over 100 of them now, and some of them are about an hour and a half long. And we're linking things together that nobody else out here is doing. I know because I've looked. I've spent, I've read countless books. I've watched countless hours of videos. I've put so much time into this. And now I'm just regurgitating it and putting it into a certain order that you all can. Basically, I'm taking information and I'm distilling it. I'm condensing it. I'm taking tens of thousands of hours and putting it into tiny little gems of information, easily digestible for everyone. And this is just a reminder to hit the like button and comment. Let me know what I can do to make this channel bigger. I don't do much but make these, and I put them out here. I don't go to any other channels and say, hey, come watch my video. I don't do that too often. So if you all could do that, that would be great. And let me know what else I could do to garner a bigger audience. Because certainly this information, for me, has been profound, and I'd like to share that. I'd like to share the information that will make your life better, so you can see what's going on in this reality and how to adjust the matrix, how to adjust your mind. I've done things on psychology. I've broken down sports betting and shown people how that exactly works, how the whole scripting works. We've looked into magic. We've looked into even Egypt and what the pyramids are and how that's connected to orgonite, empowering your body. We've looked into what the scepters are and even what televisions are. I've gotten into so many urine therapy even. Here, we'll take a look at some of the videos I've put out. And this, again, is just a reminder to hit the buttons so that way this becomes a little more popular and people start to notice and catch on. So that way everybody can really know what is going on in this reality and how to fix it and how to have a better life. I just put one out on Hanuman and how the monkey mind and the subconscious mind works. I've got one that I put out on the clocks and demons and angels, and how right now there's a squishing together of time and space, taking things from higher realms and taking things from lower realms and putting them into the same space so that nothing wears a mask and you can see. And part of that is the information that people like me and a bunch of others put out, that we're putting the information out so it's easier to see. And that's, I actually have a video. The other one is called How to See It. It gets into that. It gets into the philosophy and the comprehension of what you're looking at and showing you that things are as they are, that the masks don't work anymore. That if you go into the forest, you see lions and tigers and bears and all, and they don't wear masks. They are what they are. A fish doesn't climb a tree. It, you see what things are, and you're starting to see that on this plane. You're starting to see that up is up and down is down. You're starting to notice that, and the information that's being put out is helping to do that. So the larger this channel gets, the more people will notice that, and then we won't have to be sitting around phonies and fakers anymore. You can start to deal with real people, and this is part of it. Here we go. Sports rigging. I even talk about how the body being a temple is connected to etymology and everything that you look at. You think Las Vegas has nothing to do with the vagus nerve in your body? Or if you go to DC, you know what DC is? It's where all the energy comes from. If you look at a battery, it's called a DC. It's called direct current. So the direct current of information in this country comes from DC. But if you go to Atlantic City, which is AC, that's an alternating current, what happens there? It's gambling. So the current is alternating. You see, it's all very laid out. And I have the blueprint, the whole entire thing, the gambit of all of it. And I can overlay it and put it all together for you. And I can show you how it all works. And I do, time and time again. So we get into gematria and betting and psychology, all of that there. Um, what else do we get into here? How the alphabet works, how to reverse spells. It's as simple as saying the alphabet forward and reverse. Go find a book that you read and start reading it reverse. Start walking backwards. All of the greatest minds did things backwards. Or, in their mind, they were erasing or turning something around or spinning the information that was in front of them in the opposite direction so they could see it from both angles, from front and back, from black and white. We got it even to like mass psychological trauma and who these musicians are even. I did a big one on ABBA. I thought was pretty interesting on the Stockholm syndrome, and how that might be occurring to a degree for everyone. And these mind control things that are out there, and it's as soon as you notice them, they lose their power. As soon as you notice that that's what they're doing, as soon as all of these triggers happen on television, as soon as all these triggers happen out in public with these other people, all of a sudden you notice it and it doesn't have any power to make you tick. That means you get outside of the tick tock or the clock. So the time starts to not exist for you anymore, and you start to understand that you're aging of your entire body, that you're immortal. And I've always that's where I started this, is teaching people about like the 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 immortal cell, and you're made of that, and how your consciousness is immortal, and how you could possibly move your body into that state. I always get into word crafting and what these letters mean, etymology, plenty on that. Kings and queens and pyramids, that's a pretty interesting one about how orgonite is made and what the pyramids were as orgonite, and putting your consciousness into a pyramid to blast out a reality. We get into techno shamanism and how computers are used in a shamanic way to reveal, to divulge information, to steer people to proper directions. Because again, on this plane you have, I wouldn't call it good and bad or good and evil, but what you have is ego, and what you have is people that serve, it's service to self and service to others. Neither are bad. You need to have an ego and you need to serve yourself, but you also serve others. And this is the whole thing works that way. And this is just noticing the people that are only into the ego game, serving themselves always. And noticing you can find people that are always into serving others, and they've lost their identity. They're both horrible to look at. You find people that are so lost because all they do is want to help everyone else, but they have no identity and they don't really have an existence. And then you have these people that are so self-serving that they don't even notice people around them suffering. So there's something in the middle there, and this is what we're always trying to get to. How to enjoy your life and helping other people to enjoy their lives too. We get into how the neurotoxins in the brain work, what the heavy metals do to you as a whole, and how frequencies are used to literally control your brain. There's frequencies that actually jump through. This is why you can take salt, and I've gotten to salt plenty of times, salt, and put salt into water and take a battery and connect it in that water through some wires, and you can make a light turn on, because what is happening is it's connecting between those cubes of salt. It's arcing. The electricity is arcing through that salt. And the same thing happens with metal. So if you have salt or metal in your brain, then something outside of you can charge you and move your information in your head and make you have repetitive looping thoughts. And by watching the same television shows and by eating the same foods, you're only helping to encourage that. So we get into that as well. We get into what the diet should be. I put up the master diet here. And that gets into urine therapy and how your urine is your highest form of food, highest form of cleansing. I get into how to participate in this reality, eat certain things. And again, this is not to say don't go enjoy yourself and occasionally have your Coca-Cola or your having your weekends of fun and doing debauchery. I never suggest that. I think that's a part of your life. I think that's a part of, this experience here. But it's a matter of not being addicted to it, as addiction comes from diction, meaning words, meaning not becoming addicted to the language that rattles around in your head, that gets triggered. It's getting outside of language, understanding how to use language to further and better yourself and other people, and how not let it wrap up inside of your head and tie your head into knots. And so we can use the diet to clean that. The diet is the deity. Your deity is your God is your temple is your body. So it's all tied up into what you are and your experience. And it's changing your experience and how much you know and how much you can offer. We even get to what happened with Kanye and how these larger psychological programs happen and how the media spins things. Now, whether or not I got into whether or not Kanye was actually, if you listen to his whole 45-minute rant, the dude was telling some truth. Now, was that planned, or was that the media just putting out a fire? Is that him coming out from MK Ultra, coming out of the mind control, and then he got pulled in and re mind controlled? How, Kanye, you're about to lose $1 billion. You're about to lose your whole empire. You sure you want that? Oh, he's stepped up right back in the line, right? I mean, I don't know, but we can look at it from seeing what the media does and how the media can spin any event, any live event. And most of them aren't live. Most of the things the media do are planned events, and they film them, and then they pawn them off as real actual events that were just scripted. But again, this is just things that we look at so we can understand mass psychology and individual psychology. We even got as far into Crowley and Manly Hall and what these rituals are and what black magic is. This blood over intent idea that I've gotten to fully, because again, your blood is your urine, is your tears, is your sweat. So there's other ways to do it. You don't have to spill your blood. You can use your piss. You can use your sweat every day when you go out and perform a ritual. So you'd say you go toil in the field to create a garden. Well, the fruits of your labor in the future are going to be those literal fruits. And now if you take that psychology, you put it over anything else, you'll see that you don't need to spill your blood in those fields. You're actually putting your sweat into those fields. You're putting your labor, your love, and you're probably pissing in those fields. So I get into even the intent, and what even blood over means, or what anything over something means. It means division. So I dig deep into so many different things that most people aren't even aware of that are going on, and these rituals are all about binding somebody's consciousness to something. And we don't want to bind conscious. We want consciousness to be enveloped in all of reality with everyone. There's no brother, like a brotherhood. No, it's the whole universal planet family, and that's what we need to look at a little further, and we have to come to that conclusion. Yeah, there you can see I did a few on blood over intent because I was getting some interesting responses. Um, What else? Sigil magic. I got a pretty deep one on sigil magic for y'all. So you can make your own signs and symbols and mandalas, so you can learn how to trigger yourself and put yourself into the correct brainwaves and the correct position to perform magical incantations and to perform magic so you can see the results. We got into transhumanism and the ideas of how technology has become somewhat of a burden, and it's looking at where technology should be and how we shouldn't be consuming technology inside of us. It should be outside of us. And we even look into a little further on, hey, did maybe technology exist a long time ago and it just got pushed aside, and maybe in the year 1200 there was really high technology, and then it was taken away because something happened with the electrical system. Hey, who knows? But we examine these ideas. We look at them and make educated guesses, very educated guesses, I would say. We even get into the Bible and look at these holy books from the occulted esoteric perspective, meaning what's written in between. We look at the allegories and what these stories really mean in the sense of your body and astrotheology. We got into capitalism, religion, and scientism. Or even the flat Earth. I mean, whether or not you all believe in that or believe that you still believe in NASA, that's up to you. But there is something really interesting when you've done your study, when you've done your research into your due diligence, and what it means to who you are, and the energy that you gain, and the and having a system with one pole versus a system with two poles. No wonder people are bipolar because they think there's a north and south pole. But if you lived on a planet or a plane that has one pole, then all of a sudden, just like your spine, there's one pole in your spine, you can change your direction. Your focus is different. If you have two poles, then it flips. South pole, north pole, south pole, north pole. And that becomes bipolarism. But if you have a single pole, as in the north, in your head, in the north of your head, up your spine, then your focus is much different. And we get into the idea of that and what that is, from a psychological level. I even ranted on the gender debate. It's just one more thing that they can spin off on the news to get everybody riled up about something. And it's really, there's just one thing. There's humans, and the next division was male and female. And what do they say? They say men and women are opposite. Opposites attract, and that's just not true. They're complementary. That's why they fit together, and that's why when they fit together, they produce a third thing, which is another tiny little human. So there's no gender debate here. It's another pseudo debate. There's a lot of debates that go on that are pseudo debates. It's just somebody started saying something, then they get you down into this little rabbit hole of a debate about something that is non-debatable. And this is getting, so here we go. I got into the salt debate. I wrote a very long paper. If you all want to go to my zenalchemist.wordpress, I wrote I don't know, 10, 12 pages on why salt should not be consumed. I get into even decoding the salt through the language and looking at who Malcolm X is, who MLK is, who the kings are, the connection to the coins and the money. We get into the larger things about cancer and allergies and how they're confusing us with water, how they're confusing us with what cancer is and where it came from. I tell you about time and calendars. What else did I get into here? Oh, all these giant animals that are stronger than anything. These rhinoceros, elephants, cows, bulls. They're these gorillas. They're all vegetarians. They're all eating grass. How did they get so big? Has something to do with the water and the sunshine and movement. They're not eating. It's a protein myth. They're not eating meat. And here, anybody, I'll do another video on this one. And I've said this before, but I'll say it again here. When you buy a piece of meat from the store, it tells you how much protein is in it. It tells you how much protein is in it right then at that moment. When you put it on the stove and cook it, well, there goes all that protein. And if anybody knows what protein means, it means protease, it means original source. And the original source of protein is the sunshine. And when it mixes with the water, it becomes a plant life. And that becomes the glowing, electrically charged protein source. This is why there are so many cultures that are vegetarian and vegan. And I don't like the vegan culture, the idea of it. There's a lot of pitfalls to it. But these vegetarian cultures that existed, and they always drink beer. And there's your B vitamins, even though there's about 12,000 micronutrients that we haven't even explored yet, because it doesn't really matter. All it matters is there electrical charge in the food, and can you access it? And those B vitamins are the accessing. They help to unfurl the information within certain types of food. That's why it helps you digest. And this gets into all of these cultures that eat living foods: sauerkrauts, kimchi, beers. And so we get into that stuff too. We get into the heavy metals and how we actually are beings of frequency. You're in therapy and using oil for enemas to lubricate your body and basically that oil becomes the the rubber around the wire. So if you look at an electrical system, the rubber around the wire holds the charge, and that's what oil does in your body. So you don't burn out. So you don't actually burn out your system. And how to use those, and what those are going to do for your body. We talk about cleaning up your entire system, colon, your liver, the whole thing. I tell you what to do, how to do it. We get into myths everywhere about even marijuana myths. I even get into that, and I think when people got to really understand that with all of these different strands of weed, it's another okie dokie to get people lazy. Now it's all regulated. Well, that's not good. It grows freely out there. And then people got their hands on it and started regulating it and taxing it, and it turns into something it's not. And certainly, I'm not against it. It has its uses, but everything has its use and everything has its place. But it becoming popularized is turning people into lazy stare at something, and there's a lot of people that use it as a just as anything else, as a crux, as a crutch. And there's a lot more ways to cure or fix the cancer. And I even talk about what cure is, because cure has to do with salt. You cure something with salt, which means to dry it out. So I dig into so many different things here. Here's one I did, an hour and a half long. I highly suggest that to people. If you haven't seen it, the most advanced, potent, esoteric, occulted information unveiled. Hour and a half. I highly suggest that. I even got into the predictive programming on Trump. I got the alphabet. Tell you much about the alphabet. Oh, too many gems. There's another good one. We get into the crystals. We get into circuits, how greenhouses work, implosion within the kidneys and within water, how orgonite works, static electricity, because this is the biggest game in the world that nobody even pays attention to, because it's never talked about. What the king's scepters are, what the scepter TV is, and why it's made out of crystals. There's so much that I've done here. There's a few: air, fire, earth, and water. That's where you get a few. There's a few that have gnosis. I never put those 4 videos out, but they'll come out soon. Don't worry about that. I have tons that I haven't put out yet, but I just want to stay kind of current with whatever I'm feeling right now. And if I get to those, we'll put those out soon. Salt cure, how that's nonsense. Light nutrition, phosphorus, and orin. Okay, that's a fun one. We get into all of these elements that glow in the dark. And I haven't done this one, but I might do this one soon on jellyfish and these immortal jellyfish, and they glow. And these different materials that people would consume that help to eradicate dis-ease and parasites in the body. And there was a time that people were drinking a lot of gin and tonics, and I think it was the plague or some other disease that swept the land, and everyone was dying. But the nobility weren't, and they wondered why, and they thought it was the gin at first, with all of the different elements in the gin. But then they realized it was the quinine in the tonic water, and the quinine was made from a certain bark. And if you take tonic water and you take a black light to it, it glows in the dark, just like living energetic bodily fluids do: urine and semen and blood. And this tonic water will glow in black light. So there's something that occurs with the light that actually kills off parasites. And by filling your body with light and things that will glow in the dark, you can kill the parasite or remove it from the body. Maybe the truth is it doesn't even kill the parasite. Maybe it just wraps it up and moves it out of the body. You shine light on it inside of the body, and it moves it out the back door. But nonetheless, we get into different kinds of ideas of what nutrition is and what light is. As nutrition comes the word nut or the word lux, meaning light. So nutrition is all about light codes. Well, we get into pencils and why pencils are made of what they're made of, and how it's connected to the papacy and paper, and even why it's a number 2 pencil and dealing with duality. That's a fun one. I didn't go too deep into it, but I thought that was very interesting. We get into the 4-part series I did. I'm probably just going to re-upload that as one, but that's 40 minutes right there for you, of salt, nutrition, protein calorie myths, seed, materialism, the 3 levels of the body. I really covered the gambit for you guys here. I did another one on how pro sports are rigged and how you can look at it differently. And again, this is not saying don't go enjoy your pro sports. I'm not saying just know what you're doing. Just know what you're involved in. Know how it works. And it will be actually become more enjoyable. It'll become more enjoyable because you'll be more interested in the players' numbers and where they are on the field and what the time is in the clock, and you'll be looking for certain things. And it'll almost feel prophetic because you'll know how the game and the system is rigged and works. So it becomes a lot more fun. I get into Alzheimer's and how that works and how your brain actually has tubes in it that are pushing information in and out, and the four different elements. There's four major elements, and it's sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. There's two daytime elements and two nighttime elements, and those two nighttime elements are called magnesium and potassium. And believe it or not, their elemental symbols are Mg and K. Magnesium and potassium, magic, MGK, and their nighttime elements would have to do with the evening and Eve, and everything to do with magic, and the magic, the MAG, the magnetics of the night. I cover all of this. This is a quick study. If you really got into it, you could get through my videos in a few weeks, and you'd have really a condensed down version of 15 years of my information. It is a condensed down version of some of the highest occultists that have ever lived, that have written books. I'm taking people's information that have condensed it. Have they taken thousands of years' information and condensed it down to books? And then other people condensed that information down, and now I've taken all of that information and condensed it to this. We get into synesthesia and how electromagnetism works and how it works in the body. This was one of my earlier ones that I found very interesting. It was a six-parter. And so you have another hour and change right there of breaking down even Walter Russell, how Walter Russell was able to show how this, he didn't know he did it, but he was showing how the sine wave has something to do with Kundalini running up and down the spine, and the connection to how the periodic table actually should look, and how frequencies and harmonics works. Even get some more language about explaining something. That one was fun too. Here's one on bioluminescence, melanin, and crystals, and how these trees grow. I got into mead and honey and the hive mind and hexes, because that honey comes from storage houses where there are hexes, or six-sided honeycomb structures that hold the honey to feed something. We get into all the vegan stuff and the myths of the vegan diet and the confusion that goes on there. I always get into salt cubes, the cubes of Saturn, and how that unfolds into what time is and who Father Time is. We get into astrology and nutrition and how that works and what part that plays in your body, and even how your date of birth really has something to do with the energy system of the sun. I fully connect that for you, which goes into, and if you watch that, you can't. If I didn't put it in the video, I'd tell you about. I think it was George Carey, cell salts. And again, those cell salts have to come from a natural source. They can't be inorganic. I get into that all the time. The difference between inorganic and organic salts. There's what else we done here? Oh, esoteric numerology. I broke down numerology in a way that probably nobody else did. And I think you'll all get a really, that's 40 minutes right there. I think you'll all really enjoy that. Talk about who Baal is and Baal and bowels and the underworld and squaring the circle. These are all connected. Oh, here's a fun one. We get into the brain waves and breathing patterns and how your fingers, you have four fingers that connect to positive, negative, that connect to the four brain waves, alpha, beta, theta, and delta. And how your breathing patterns, because there's four of them, mouth, 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 nose, 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 mouth, connect with each one of your fingers, connect to the four brainwave patterns, connect to your DNA and encoding your DNA. And how to create different memory, how to alter memory, and how to change your triggers in your body. We get to the mandala effect being actually a mandala, not Nelson Mandela, because they're using trickery. I get into who Jesus is and who Satan is and how brainwaves work, how to create with your mind. We get into Christmas and how that all works. I've done some audios on a universal prime creator and the big theory of everything, how urine works and aged urine, what you can use it for. Hollywood, and I did a 10 lesson thing that ended with Hollywood, fishing, and etymology. And I always wanted to make a larger board on that so it could be really. But if you look through those, you'll see how the connections it starts to be made between language and the land, and how the things that you see outside of you are actually reflections of something internal. We got into that Andrew Norton, and then anybody that's never looked up his website, look up Andrew Norton Webber, and it's Aquarius the Water Bearer. If you think you're still confused about what you need to do with water and salt, he breaks it down very plainly and clearly there. And he has a bunch of videos out. I highly suggest him. I get into hieroglyphs, spelling, what even heritage means, and what your hair has to do with things, how your lung gauge or your language creates things. We talk about the electricity and the water and the moon and the difference between the male and the female. And we really dive into that really deep, into how the male is electric and the female is magnetic. I even get into some gematria, but there's so many people out there that do a much better job. Marty Leeds, I would check him out. He does a fantastic job at it. Zachary Hubbard, check his stuff out. He breaks it down, and he just came out with a new website, free for all. Or no, it's truthforall.com. I highly suggest that. And his work he's put thousands of videos out, multiple a day, telling you how the media is rigged and it's scripted and it's done by the number, and he shows how it's done, and he goes into sports as well. He breaks that down. We've done a little bit on out of body experiences and astral travel, but somebody wanted me to do a new one on that, so I'm gonna do a larger one on that. Tell about what heaven and how it really is, and then there's a bunch of audios that I did right in the beginning before I had access to a computer to draw on. We get into Babylon and reality reaching, sigil magic, light workers, sexual energies, fasting. I talk a lot about fasting, as I've done a fast for 40 days on water. I'm very aware of how that works. I fasted on urine. Language is a cultural operating system. I kind of spin off on a lot of Terence McKenna's work and Alan Watts, Walter Russell stuff. There's so many. Look up Dan Winter. We get into neg entropy. We get into even alcohol and its effects on you during a fast, and why it's not as evil as people make it out to be. Yeah. So once again, this is all just to remind everybody, politely, to hit the buttons, subscribe, like, share this stuff, and comment and let me know what more you'd like me to put together, what you want to hear about, and how I can possibly make this bigger. What route should I go? And what can you do to just put the information out there to get people here clicking on the information? Because once again, I think you all recognize how valuable this is, and I'm doing it all for free. And in the future, if there's anything that I'll be slinging, that I'll be trying to hustle, it'll probably be Orgonite, because I have a very, very good understanding of how that works. So that's about the only thing this channel would ever serve, like in any way, for me to make any kind of the king's coin to participate in reality. That would probably be it. I don't even know if I'll do that, because I'd rather just put this information out there so you all can do it for yourself. I'll tell you how to make the Orgonite. I don't, as long as somehow I'm gifted and granted a roof over my head, and I'm taken care of in that sense. That's all I really need, because I'm happy to put this information out there. So like, share, comment, subscribe, and let me know what y'all think. Let me know how to make this bigger and go and put this information out there. Thanks a lot, everybody. Chat with y'all soon. I'll probably have a couple more videos out today. Peace.